In this lesson, we'll add lights to the head mech unit by creating an emissive channel. Now, emissive channel is an area of a texture that is unlit, meaning the surrounding lighting will not affect it, thus giving us the illusion that the area is emitting light. Now let's take a look at our existing channels. Going to the texture set settings, we can see that we have all the channels that we've been painting with so far, things like base color, metallic, and roughness. So what we need to do is add a new channel to paint our emissive information onto. We can do this by choosing the plus icon, which will give us a drop-down selection. Now, if you're doing something a little bit more advanced and custom, you can choose any of these channels to your desire, but for us, we'll just simply pick emissive. You'll notice that we have a new channel called emissive. Now let's apply this to the mesh. We can go up to the top of the layer stack and add a folder. I'll name this emissive. We can add our mask by color selection and choose the bright pink areas from our ID mask. I also want this eye area in the front. Unfortunately, I didn't include it in our ID mask, so instead we can use our paint effect, use the polygon fill tool by hitting 4, choosing a white value and using the mesh fill to choose the eye area. Now I'll alt click on the mask just to make sure that we have the correct areas masked off. Let's make a new layer to paint on. So I'll name this lighting and drag it into the emissive folder. Before I begin painting, if we look at our brush parameters, we can see that we have a new channel in our material area labeled emiss, which represents our emissive channel. So I'll enable that channel and disable the rest. I'll pick a red color, enable symmetry, and start painting. Now we have some emissive applied to our texture, and these areas will stay lit even when in shadow. What I usually like to do when painting emissives is lowering the environment exposure. We'll go to the viewer settings and lower the exposure to about -2. Now coloring emissives works okay this way, but I want a little bit more of a color shift on the hottest part of the light. So instead of using colored emissive, we're going to do our painting in grayscale and then colorize it using an effect. So I'll undo what we just painted, and this time I'll just paint in pure black. We aren't seeing any change yet, so next I'll add an effect and choose filter. Now filters are similar to those you have in Photoshop, like hue, saturation, and sharpen. I'll click on the filter tab and type in gradient. What this will allow us to do is remap our black and white values to a color value. So color 1 represents all the white pixels and color 2 all the black pixels. I'll choose a light blue value for color 1 and a darker value for color 2. And I'm choosing all of these off of a swatch that I have on the second monitor. There's a slight glow now starting to happen, and that's because we painted black, and black is being remapped to color 2. I can pick color 2 and hue shift it. So basically anytime I paint black, it will remap to color 2. I'll undo and resample my blue swatch. Now if we go back to our layer and choose an alpha for my brush, like a square shape, and change my emissive color to white, I can start to paint in the top color, which is a lighter blue. So I'll just stamp in a few areas for this light. Let's do the same for the eye. I'll paint in black, then choose a soft round brush, and stamp it directly on with a white value. Now if at any point I don't like the colors, I can tweak them right in the gradient effect so we can change the hotspot color. I'll just undo a couple times to go back to the blue color. I personally prefer to have a more blown out emissive look, but instead of changing the gradient, we can do that right in the viewport by going to viewer settings and bumping up the emissive intensity to about 2. Keep in mind this is only doing it for the render and not actually changing the values you chose to paint in. Also note that in the viewport, these don't physically emit light, so don't expect any actual light emitting from these areas. I'll reset my exposure to default, and in the next lesson, we're going to go and play around with the dirt layer by using some particles.